Start off by saying that I was with her on and off for almost 6 years. The on and off part should have been a good indication that I should have jumped ship a long time ago, but I constantly allowed her to burrow back into my life. There really should be a subreddit called Shit My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend Has Done, or something close to it. If there is, please let me know, because I've got enough stories involving this girl that I could write a book. Hell, maybe write a TV series even. Anyway, on with the stalking. I'll start by giving you some information about our relationship and what caused me to break up with, I'll call her Crazy as that's what she is. About 2 years ago or so, Crazy started calling and texting me after we had been broken up for close to 6 months. At first I just decided I was going to ignore her because I knew if I let her back in, things would just go to hell in a handbasket eventually. However, one night I had been drinking and got this lame-ass sentimental feeling and decided to answer one of her texts. That was all it took. She started coming over and eventually we ended up together again. We were together for close to 7 months before I finally got fed up with her bullshit and kicked her out of my apartment. She was physically abusive and a mental mindfuck. If I didn't let her use my car whenever she wanted, give her money when she claimed she needed it, or basically do whatever the hell she asked, she would have a tantrum like a 3-year-old and cause more drama than any one person could endure. During our time together, she managed to get herself in some real trouble after she beat some dude over the head with a beer mug at a local bar we'd frequent. What really ended the relationship was when she started using meth and was bringing that shit into my home. I tried getting her help, but she turned it around on me as if I was trying to change her. So I gave up and told her mother she needed to get her daughter the fuck out of my place before I called the cops and had her removed. I told her we were done and I never wanted to hear from her again. At this point I had given her multiple opportunities to change, but she refused and made it seem like I was the problem. Whatever, I was done. The problem was, she wasn't. The day I finally ended it, and it was only the beginning of her tormenting. She started her attack by creating a Craigslist ad under the escorts section with a fake picture and my phone number as a contact. I received over 500 plus calls and text messages from random dudes looking to get laid. This lasted for about a week before shit calmed down. If that wasn't enough, the same night while my phone is blowing up, I see the security guard from my apartment complex nosing around my car, shining his flashlight in the windows. I go outside and ask the guy, "Is there a problem?" He responds, "I got a report that this car here is abandoned and needs to be removed." I'm just like, the fuck it is. That's my car, and I live in the apartment right over there. I ended up having to get my title and a valid driver's license to keep this douche from calling a towing company and having my shit removed. Next day rolls around, still getting a massive amount of texts and calls through my whole workday, which was really pissing me off. I get home after work and sit down to try and relax, when there is a knock at the door. I look out through the peephole and see some dude I've never met before standing outside. I don't answer. I wait for him to leave and then look out my balcony and see this guy on the phone standing right out front. I yell down to him, "Hey, can I help you?" He responds, "Is Crazy here?" I'm just like, "No, that's my ex, and I kicked her out the other day. Maybe check her mom's house where she's staying." I ended up talking to this guy further. It turns out that she set up a dinner date with him and gave the guy my address as the address to where she was staying. That night, another 3 guys showed up looking to have a dinner date with her. I had work the next day, and while I'm there, she starts sending me texts, pictures of the outside of my apartment with messages like, "It's quite breezy in the apartment with your patio door open," and "I hope your dog finds his way back home, he got out." So needless to say, this shit is stressing me out. I'm almost positive at the time it's bullshit, but there's always that chance Crazy actually broke in. I got home later to find my apartment the way I left it, but the pure mindfuck of it all is what is close to giving me a fucking ulcer. The whole time I'm ignoring her ass, hoping this shit will come to an end. No, it only escalates. Once again after work, I have a knock at my door while I'm watching TV. I check the peephole and there are 2 police officers standing outside. I'm just thinking, now what the fuck, as I open the door and I'm greeted by 2 relatively large gentlemen in uniform with shitty looks on their faces. I'm just like, yes, can I help you? Are you, insert my name here, asks one of the officers. Yes, is there a problem? He replies, only if you'd consider raping a young woman a problem. Can you provide your whereabouts for the last 2 hours? I was fucking shitting myself, but I responded, well, I just got home from work like 45 minutes ago. And what do you mean rape? Who told you that? This bitch really stepped up her game, calling in a false police report and getting the cops to come question me about it. That's just fucking bold. The cop responds, I'm not at liberty to provide that information, but will need for you to provide some proof that you weren't in the Galt area between the hours of 2 and 5 this afternoon. Now I'm actually starting to get pissed knowing that I'm 100% innocent of this alleged rape, so I kind of get an attitude which didn't really help my situation at the time. But I calmly respond, if you want to go to my place of work and verify that I was there until 4, that will prove I had nothing to do with this, and furthermore, the person accusing me of this crime, are you going to arrest them for filing a false police report? And what I heard next floored me. The cop says, I'm not so sure it's a false report. Your car is still warm, and you look guilty. No fucking shit my car's still warm. I just drove home from work less than an hour ago, Einstein. Some fucking awesome detective work, Chief. They left, but before doing so, told me not to leave my apartment, as they would be back if my story didn't check out. Well, they never came back, and I called the police station multiple times to get an update on what they figured out, and you know what they fucking told me? No police report had been filed, and there was no record of any police being dispatched to my address on the day in question. How the fuck? I was seriously about to lose my shit. How can she continue to do this shit with no consequence? Mind you, I'm still getting texts and calls, less than in the beginning, but they were still coming in. I think it was like a week or so, and shit was quiet, minus the calls and texts, but even those weren't all that heavy anymore. I started to think that she was done fucking with me, and I might be able to live my life normal and drama-free. Fuck no. I stop at my mailbox after work, about a week or so after the whole rape situation, and receive a letter from the post office that said I had changed my address, but if this was incorrect, to contact them to stop the mail forwarding. So I call these fuckers and tell them I haven't moved, nor have I filled out a change of address form, so there is no reason to forward my mail elsewhere. They assure me that my mail will continue coming to my current address, and that I had nothing to worry about. Well, they were full of shit, because I didn't get a piece of mail for 2 months after that day. It took 3 phone calls and 2 visits at the local post office to get that shit rectified. Now, had it just been me not getting my mail, I wouldn't have been that pissed about it, but once my mail was forwarded to the address where Crazy was getting it, she used that as an opportunity to get all of my account information for my electric, gas, phone, cable, car, and banking information. I have extra security set up on my bank account, so that was safe, and my car payments weren't going away, but she managed to shut off my cable, my electric, and my gas. I also got phone calls from my phone company stating that changes would be applied to my account if I hadn't called. I was pissed. I ended up paying an extra $300 in fees to get my gas and electric bills put back into my name, mainly because my apartment complex ended up paying the balances on both accounts and charged me for that shit. The shit was getting to be all too much. I tried calling the cops and they just asked if I had gotten a restraining order. I explained that I had tried, but she continued to evade being served, and after a period of time, if the person isn't served, the restraining order is no good. The response was, we can't help you. Wow, thank you. Can't help me, but you can follow up on a false police report, and then ignore that shit like it never happened. Gotta love the fucking cops out here. However, I got a break. If you remember, she was arrested for smoking some dude over the head multiple times with a beer mug, right? Well, she finally had gotten convicted and was given 3 months in jail for it. 3 fucking months. Are you kidding me? There's no way in hell I could go out and beat some guy with a glass object all willy-nilly and not go away for at least a year, if not longer. But somehow she squeaked by with ease. Either way, that meant peace and quiet for at least that period of time. I was watching her status in jail online from time to time to make sure her ass was still locked up when one day I checked and saw she had been released 2 days prior. In my head, I screamed "fuck" as loud as humanly possible and started to get paranoid about what this girl might do next. Weeks went by and nothing. Finally, she's done, given up. Or so I thought. A few weeks ago, it started with a text, a picture of a pregnancy test that showed positive. It came from a number I had never seen, so I wasn't sure who it was, but had my suspicions. Figuring it was her, I texted back saying, "Finally, any ties to you I had are broken. Have fun with the poor schmuck who knocked your crazy ass up." I got a response. "You obviously don't know who this is." Which was true and really got me thinking considering I had talked to a few other women since being with my ex. Either way, I ignored it and just hoped it would go away. Over the next week after that, I kept getting texts. Only that one picture, nothing else. Once again, I kept ignoring until I got another text. This time it was a picture of a woman holding her stomach, showing that she was pregnant, minus the head. Immediately after that, another text saying, "I guess we know who the fertile one out of the two of us is, now don't we?" That there told me it was the ex, as we actually tried to have a kid but never were able to do so. So I responded back, "Awesome. Have a good life, with whatever schmuck you managed to get to impregnate you. Thank fucking Christ it wasn't me. Now kindly fuck off." She replied back with stupid insults that are irrelevant to the story, and I just ignored, figuring she'd done what she wanted. Rubbed in the fact that I could possibly be sterile. Which to me, that shit is a win-win. I can't have kids, and now she's got other shit to deal with that'll keep her from bothering me. A week or so went by, and it's last week on Thursday. I am the type of person that tends to do shit at the last minute, and when it comes to waking up in the morning to get to work, I sleep as late as I can so when I get to my car, I need to leave right away or I could end up being late. So I'm headed to my car and notice something stuck to it. There are 3 magnets on my car with stupid-ass slogans. I think one said something about being a cat lady or some dumb shit. I really didn't pay attention as I peeled them off, because I needed to get to work. What I did notice is the bitch superglued the fuckers to my car, so it wasn't easy getting them off, and I still had remnants of magnet on my car. That was the worst of it, and to explain the second part, I must tell a short story. I explained how Crazy got into using meth. Well, one day when I allowed her to use my car, she went to meet her brother at his apartment. They got into an argument, he owed her some meth, he didn't have the meth, she thought he did. In turn, the brother wanted to leave, and in an attempt to stop him, the bitch used my car to barricade him. And when she did, he got out and kicked in my driver's side window, and then got back into his truck and proceeded to run into my car until she moved out of the way. So I didn't have a driver's side window for the longest time. He didn't have insurance and is a fucking tweaker, so getting money for him to fix the window was pretty much impossible. I'm also lazy and do things at the last minute, so I never got it fixed. The weather in California allows me to drive around with a broken window and not worry about the interior of my car getting ruined. Anyway, back to last week Thursday. I now have magnets stuck to my car, and I'm about to get in when I see approximately 5 pounds of dog shit with open condoms just chilling out on my driver's seat. You've gotta be fucking kidding me, I think to myself, as I start to look for something to quickly clean this shit. Literally, out of my fucking car. There was a plastic bag on the ground, so I grabbed it, and thankfully the shit was dry, so I was able to quickly get it off the seat. I'm sure I still ended up sitting on some of it, but I didn't have the time to fucking waste, as I was already late and needed to get my ass to work. I got there and told my boss. Thankfully he's a cool guy and let me take the first half hour to work to clean it out completely. Needless to say, I have replaced the driver's side window on my car. Now I wait. Wonder what the fuck this girl has in store for me next. My guess, something even more fucked up. Now, I know I'm going to get two questions. The first, why haven't I changed my phone number? And the second, why haven't I moved? To answer the first, I have too many people that know my current number, and I'm not going to let that bitch win by inconveniencing myself and changing it. Second, I plan on moving, but don't have the greatest rental history, so breaking my lease wouldn't help that in any means. So I'm sticking it out and hoping Crazy just fucks off. Brother's ex-girlfriend. My brother met his girlfriend a year ago when he was 17, and she was 16. For a little while, they seemed like they had a great relationship. My brother Alan and his girlfriend Jamie were always happy together, and Jamie made a real effort to get to know the rest of the family. However, I noticed something was off whenever my brother wanted to go out with his friends without Jamie, and she would have a complete meltdown, screaming about how he didn't love her and how much she does for him, etc. This happened all the time, so eventually, he started spending more time with her to avoid conflict. She even got annoyed at my mother's funeral because he wasn't paying enough attention to her. Like, what the fuck? Our mom just died. Chill out. Things started to get worse, with her accusing him of hitting her whenever he would try to deflect her from punching him in the face. My brother had some mild anxiety problems and quilt about our mother's death, since they weren't on the best of terms before she died. He uses Xanax or bars to try to self-medicate, which she knows, and would often pick fights with him to use his actions against him later on. Or try to tell the school he was on something to get him in trouble when he didn't want to have anything to do with her. Eventually, Alan couldn't take it anymore and ended the relationship a few days ago. A quick note, our glass back sliding door is pretty weak. If you yank at it hard enough, you can force it open despite it being locked, unless we put the key in. The other day, she showed up at 5 in the morning, banging on the door and demanding to be let in. My dad got after her and she left. This morning, however, she broke in through the back door and got into bed with my brother, who slept through all of this. My dad found her and told her to leave, or he'd call the police. This afternoon, I heard my brother and his friend get back in from school. All was well until, once again, Jamie broke in through the back door, as she had taken the key this morning. Alan's friend stopped her from going into his room, and I told her to leave and not come back, or I was going to call the police. After she had left, my dad came back with 3 new keys made for the back door. My brother showed us her claims of cutting herself, which we reversed imaged and found it immediately, along with the fact that she didn't have any cuts on her arms. It's gotten so bad that my brother doesn't want to go to school since she follows him around and tries to get him to talk to her, and when that doesn't happen, get him in trouble. Jamie, I hope you get out of our lives and get the help you desperately need, because you are out of your mind. Suicidal stalker makes the news, and she has previous. This story takes place around a year and a half ago, at the beginning of 2014. I had been split up with my ex-girlfriend for a few months, and felt it was time to move on and find someone else. But I was, and still am, a relatively introverted guy, and I don't particularly care for the whole club scene, so I decided to try online dating for a while. Online dating seems to be a theme which recurs a lot on this subreddit, but let me just say that on whole, my experiences were good, and I even met my current girlfriend on the internet, so online dating is definitely not without its merits. However, after being on a small, free dating website for a while, a girl popped up as being nearby. She lived about 20 minutes away from my house, looked relatively attractive, but her pictures were very low quality, red flag, and seemed intelligent without being overly pretentious. I shot her a message and she shot back. Things seemed good. We swapped numbers and spoke for a while, and she seemed relatively normal at this point. We didn't have particularly deep conversations at all. She told me about her work, I told her about my studies. We spoke about music, etc., etc. Things started to decline when we had been talking for a few weeks. As time went on, she became increasingly needy and would text me nonstop all day. If I didn't reply back because I was busy, she would start crying and ask what she did to offend me. Definitely a red flag. Weeks went by and she began revealing more and more of her strange personality. She would switch from extreme to extreme emotionally. One such example that sticks in my mind was me mentioning my ex. She absolutely went crazy about her, calling her almost every name under the sun. Now, I can't remember why I did this, but I remember asking for her email address, and she gave it to me. This is important because it was a generic email, including her first and last name. So I did what any Redditor would do and searched that into Facebook, and voila. Her account popped up, and needless to say, the difference between pictures she had taken herself and those she had been tagged in was remarkable. She was not heavier than her picture on the dating website, but just looked more drained. Her skin was pale, almost grayish, and her eyes had a totally out-of-it dazed stare to them. I'm not a shallow guy, but it did make my stomach sink a little. Now, I know what you're thinking. This was the end of it, right? Wrong. Because this stupid chick was lonely and didn't have anything else to do. So when this girl wanted to meet up, I swallowed my shallowness and agreed to do it. I'd meet her and we could spend time together. On the morning we had planned, I didn't hear from her. She eventually texted me just before I left to cancel our arrangement and said she has been in the hospital the night before with a heart attack. I freaked and asked if she was okay, and she said she was fine. They had managed to save her, etc. Now, I should say that in the weeks prior to this, she had been becoming more and more dark and depressed, and I was the same. She was discussing suicide and self-harm, and it was dragging me down. I had really tried to cheer her up, but I needed support myself, not to be an emotional crutch for her. So eventually I decided I couldn't do it anymore, and told her that I wish her well. But I decided that I thought it was best that I didn't talk to her anymore. Remember I told you about her switching from mood to mood? Well, every time I had wanted to break things off, she went crazy, often threatening suicide and self-harm. I had been having my doubts about her since way before the Facebook discovery, but didn't want to kick a pathetic lonely girl while she was down. However, her manipulation eventually led to a deep resentment. So when I told her I'd had enough, I wasn't thinking about her. I wanted her to leave me alone. She said that I was the only reason she hadn't killed herself already, and that she was going to OD. I tried to call her, but she didn't answer, and I didn't know her address. I didn't sleep at all that night. When morning came, I checked every news source I could to no avail. There was no record of anyone ODing or dying by any means in her area. I checked her Facebook and saw her status and profile pic had been changed that morning, and didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary. It was like, can't wait to go out with blank tonight. I got a text from her number that afternoon claiming to be her mother, saying that her body had been found, and that I was invited to her funeral. The kicker? She had been commenting on Facebook posts, happy as can be the whole time I had been receiving the text. I blocked her number and tried to forget it all ever happened. Until her name popped into my head a few months after. I had no intention of talking to her, but decided to Google her name just out of curiosity, as it was a very unusual and strange sounding name. The first hit on her name was a news website, showing a story of how she had been given a restraining order for aggravated harassment of some other dude, including persistently threatening suicide and self-harm, sending text messages, and abusive calls. She also cut her wrist and smeared blood all over his door, windows, and car.